Ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to our launch of the Uraia Strategic Framework 2021-2025. I will be your host. My name is Caroline Nyamu. I would like to inform you that we are having both a physical and virtual event. We're joined by participants from across the country. I am informed that we have people from Nakuru, Homa Bay, Makueni, West Pokot. So I would like to welcome our participants who will be joining us virtually. Our strategic framework launch has been a long journey, and we're really excited in terms of where we are at today to be launching this strategic framework that then sets out the journey for us for our next 5 years. As we will be celebrating and launching the strategic framework, I would like to invite you to engage with us online on our social media platforms. We have the Uraia Twitter handle and Facebook. That's Uraia Trust, Facebook, and at Uraia Trust. Our hashtags for the day are Uraia New Strat and Uraia Strat Launch. So please feel free to engage on our social media pages. Those of us who are joining us on the virtual event, please share your comments, your feedback on the Zoom, on the webinar platform, as well as on the social media pages. We'll be excited to share that feedback as we go along. So in order to move this program along, we have prepared several presentations for us today. We want to give you a sense of where we have come from in order to then set the stage in terms of where we're going. So to start us off, we have a brief video by one of our trustees, Mr. Sheikh Abdullahi Abdi, and he will be giving us a brief in terms of the journey of civic education and the journey of Uraia. So we will watch a brief video that then starts to set the tone for the journey that we have taken to bring us to this place. So ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite you as we watch this brief video by Sheikh Abdullahi Abdi. Welcome everyone.
When Kenyans got together during the year 2008 up to 2002, and the first CSOs came together in terms of civic education, we formed what was called the National Civic Education Program, the NCEP. There was NCEP 1, and then that was followed by NCEP 2. Both these brought together different actors in the form of civil society, which included NGOs, CBOs, and also religious groups. These groups played a key role in terms of imparting knowledge and skills to the grassroots level. Uraia has covered the whole country, all the 47 counties that we do have in terms of these programs. The results is what we are seeing today. We are seeing a lot of activism in those areas. We are seeing people at the grassroots level going and challenging decisions of the county government. In terms of public participation, there is marked improvement compared to the last 5 years. So this is what civic education is about. Much has been done, much still needs to be done. Civic education is a wide subject. It involves roles and responsibilities, rights and responsibilities of the Kenyan person. The Constitution of Kenya is absolutely clear that the Kenyan citizen had his rights. That is protected in the Constitution, particularly if we look at the Constitution of the 2010. The rights are clearly provided for, but at the same time there is one factor that actually Kenyans overlook. A Kenyan citizen has a responsibility to the nation. That responsibility is that actually he has to live within the Constitution and make sure that the governance program or the governance of the country is done according to the will of the people.
Would like to hear from the chair of Uraia Trust as she charts the journey that Uraia has taken in terms of its strategy since the trust was established. For that, again, we have a brief video by the chair of the Uraia Trust, Dr. Mushai Mwangola. So I will again invite you to watch this video with us. Before we watch the video, I would just like to inform you that we will have a brief poll after that video. So please prepare yourselves. Make sure that you have your mobile devices ready so that we can be able to undertake that poll. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome as we listen to Dr. Mushai Mwangola.
This was a really exciting period because now we had a trust. And so the first Uraia Strategic Plan had a theme which linked the idea of an informed citizenry and a healthy democracy. And so the three things that we began to emphasize was civic knowledge, which is the idea, therefore, that people had to be educated. They needed to know what were their rights and responsibilities as citizens. You also needed civic skills because once people knew, they had to be able to engage. It wasn't enough just to know, you needed to do something about it. And then there was a third, civic dispositions, which I would like to come back to later on. Because civic dispositions was about what are people's attitudes, what really drives people to do what it is that they want to do. What is the DNA that drives you? But for Uraia Trust, the first strategic framework, you can imagine there was so much that needed to be done. And so the emphasis was really on the first two. The program was delivered through three pillars. So civic education that focused on the knowledge part, civic engagement that focused on the skills part, and then because it was a new institution, on an institutional transformation. And really the thinking at this point was that we needed to celebrate the fact that there was a new constitution. Uraia Trust is as old as the constitution. And that not only do we have individual citizens, we also have corporate citizens. But Uraia as a trust needed to start by being a model corporate citizen itself. Now, the four focus areas that really the program delivered on in terms of the material that was being engaged with was, of course, the Constitution. So people needed to know what the Constitution was about. And then secondly, there was a big focus on a free and independent judiciary. There was also the focus on free and fair elections, because as you know, people knew that as people went forward, there needed to be a sense that whoever would be elected into the many institutions were there because they deserved to be there. And finally, to expand who was participating. So we had talked about gender in NCEP, but now thinking about all the marginal and marginalized communities that had been left out of previous programs, not just civic education, but generally in government programs. So those were the four focus areas of the first strategic plan. So then we came to the second strategic plan. And this one ran from 2016 with the one that we're just completing now in 2021. The theme of this was from rights and responsibilities to values and nationhood. So as I said at the beginning, there was a lot of emphasis on rights and responsibilities. And we wanted now people to start to move to this issue of the civic responsibilities that I talked about. Not just doing things by the letter, but beginning to think about the spirit. The three things that began to mature, I would say, in terms of the pillars is that in the civic education program, we began to ask ourselves how we could deliver on a more responsive civic education program. In other words, as you went to different parts of the country, as you engaged with different constituencies, really making sure that the civic education that they were being offered spoke to the needs and the priorities of the people that were being engaged with. In terms of civic engagement, Uraia now began to really look at how you could bring in individual civic educators and budget facilitators to work on particular aspects very directly with the citizens, so that people are now getting much more hands-on, moving from knowledge to actually acting on what they knew. And then in terms of institutional transformation, now that the trust was up, it had been running, beginning to really think about how did we deepen this idea of transforming all the actors that we were working with, whether they were in this, government actors as well as the civil society organizations that we were working with. So really deepening their own responsibilities, their own responsiveness, helping them understand what their rights were, and making sure that all three of these pillars were deepening in their work. In terms of the focus areas, very much a continuation, entrenching constitutionalism, again, working with the judiciary and on issues to do with the judiciary, working on issues to do with elections, and also really focusing again on the communities that had not perhaps received civic education in the past, who had been historically marginalized, deepening our reach with that. And this is where we are at the moment, and this is what now gives us the basis of where the strategy is today. With regard to the focus areas, very much a continuation of the work in terms of the Constitution, now beginning to really entrench it, to move people from thinking about just getting to know the Constitution to entrenching constitutionalism. Again, continuing work with the judiciary, strengthening the judiciary and supporting the judiciary. And then in terms of elections, continuing to deepen our work to make sure that the elections were free and fair. And now with marginalized communities, as we continue to think about how to really bring in historically marginalized communities, the focus was on women, working with youth, and people with disabilities in particular. And so we could not be more excited to see all these things come together with this strategic framework, the third one, where we are going to be focusing on nurturing an engaged, empowered, and values-based citizenry. And you'll really see all the threads that we've been working with coming together. We are going to be working in 3 outcome areas. The first one is the idea of an ecosystem. Why an ecosystem? Well, we've been growing from strengthening Uraia as an organization, as a trust, to working with the partners that we work with directly. And now we want to deepen our engagement with everybody else who is delivering civic education in Kenya, whether they're working with the state or the non-state. Going back to that original idea that civic education as an institution in Kenya needs to be vibrant, it needs to be all over the country, and it needs to have as many people as possible and many actors as possible working on it. And because we know that as a trust, we will never be able to deliver on civic education for everybody, we are now putting in our energies to growing an ecosystem, to working with even civic actors that we do not work directly with, or government actors that we do not work directly with. The second outcome is picking up on the work that we've already been doing in terms of the content of the materials that we've been working with. And now we really want to focus on the question of impact. We know that people are being educated, they understand the material, they're familiar with it, they're aware of what their rights and responsibilities are. We know that people are being given the skills to be able to work with the budgets or to be able to work with different state agencies or state governments in terms of holding each other accountable as citizens and government. But now we want to see the impact. Is this engagement actually making change? And so this is where we're going to be putting the emphasis in. And then we want to go back to that idea of civic responsibilities, the DNA of who we are as citizens. And everybody keeps talking about values. Everybody keeps saying that, oh, you know, our big problem is values. We want to understand, what do we mean when we say we have a problem with values? What do we mean when we say we have values but we are not living them out? And so the big outcome that we want to look at is Utu. We have chosen the word Utu because Utu goes to the very essence of who we are as human beings. And we want to ask, what does Utu look like in the public sphere? And this outcome will go not so much in terms of message delivery. We're not going to be telling people what to think. We want to go back to the idea of having conversations with Kenyans, helping us together in the same way that we came to understand what it meant when we said Kenyans have rights, and then what it meant when we said Kenyans have rights and responsibilities. We want to know what it means when it says Kenyans have Utu.
Wow. So Sheikh Abdullahi Abdi has traced the journey from NSEP. Dr. Muchai has now taken us into the sphere of Uraia Trust. And so we're at that place now where it's looking forward. We've come from behind there, and now we're going forward. So I'll keep you a little bit in suspense, and we'll have that poll that I informed you about. So on our screens, the details of the poll should be coming up. I would like to invite you, take your mobile phone, whether you're here with us or whether you're in Trans Nzoia, Kisumu, Machakos, Makueni, and I'm inviting you. At the bottom of the screen, you will see the details. If you could go to www.menti.com, that's www.menti.com. There is a code once you've gone to that particular platform. The code is coming up shortly. It's 22128927. That's 22128927. And we're asking you, do you think, or in your opinion, should values be legislated? In your opinion, should values be legislated? And you can vote your opinion, whether that's a yes or a no, or if you do not know. So the polling will carry on, and at the end of today's session, we will be able to give you the final results of our poll. Our poll question, in your opinion, should values be legislated? The details of where to get that poll are screening on or are scrolling on our screen. One of the things that Dr. Muchai alluded to as she was speaking with regards to where we're going is that we want to build an ecosystem for civic education and civic engagement. In the last 10 years, we have been working with implementing partners who have formed the core of our ecosystem. We are not able to do the work that we do without the input of our implementing partners at the national level and at the county level. We have collected some views from some of these implementing partners, and again, I will invite you to watch a brief video from our implementing partners telling us their experience of working with us and implementing civic education and civic engagement in Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome for these perspectives.
Uraia to Center for Transformational Leadership is a close partner who has walked the journey in governance work with the center since 2012. So we've worked with Uraia for the last 9 years. Uraia has built our skills as an organization to engage in governance work. Before we started working with Uraia, we didn't know about social accountability. We were not engaging in budget work. But as a result of working with Uraia, we have built our capacity to be able to influence budgets at county level, to be able to support local communities to undertake social accountability work, monitor service delivery in health facilities and in the education sector. And also with the support from Uraia, we've built a pool of community resource persons who number one, understand their rights and responsibilities and have the capacity to monitor services, engage duty bearers, raise critical questions about the quality of services that they are receiving. And also Uraia has built our capacity to engage with county government and even build their capacity.
Uraia Trust means great and much to us as Community Empowerment and Development Center in threefold. One, in terms of organizational management, through Uraia, our organizational management has improved in terms of policy development, organizational fundraising or resource mobilization, and then the administrative part of it has played a very great role. Secondly, in terms of knowledge and knowledge empowerment and provision in the community, through Uraia, we are able to accredit so much in terms of knowledge, empowering citizens to engage effectively with the governance in Busia County and to coordinate well in terms of budget work and then allocation of priorities and allocation of resources to those priority needs. Number three, initially, the other CSOs who were not able to recognize the role and the contribution of Community Empowerment and Development Center. But over time and the continuous building capacity from Uraia and other partners who joined CDC, civil society organizations have realized the capacity CDC has to an extent that we are the convening organization in Busia and we lead in civic knowledge and building capacity of Busia County government officers to appreciate the role civil society organizations are doing in Busia County. And this has improved in terms of service delivery and enhancement of budgets in areas that we focused in, especially health, water, and education.
Uraia means a lot to us as an organization. For us, we've worked with Uraia for the last kind of 2 years. And for that period, Uraia means a lot to us because it is an enabler to us, it is a facilitator. It has enabled us meet our strategic direction and governance. And more to that, it has also put us in the map of Tharaka-Nithi County. We are now a very recognized organization on the field of governance. The best thing about working with Uraia is that we take them as a facilitator and a big brother because Uraia has enabled us to meet our strategic direction and one of our core values of governance. The citizens also recognize us as one of the organizations which is giving them capacity building and issues of governance. And we really filled the gap because there's no other organization which has been offering that.
For us, Uraia is a steadfast partner. They have been with us through the ups and downs. They're not just a development partner, they are committed for our growth as an organization. They're there for us. They want us to improve as an institution, to grow. They are also very keen on ensuring that persons with disabilities engage. They are connected and they are empowered as citizens, just like others without disabilities. The best thing I can say is that there's an open door policy. You can consult with Uraia at any time. There's also the various engagement forums that we get to have, like these ones that we have today, where before we launch a project or a strategic plan, they always bring all of us together so that we can share our plans, our activities. We find areas of growth, or areas of synergy and how we can work with other partners to ensure we achieve our goals.
CRECO means a lot to Uraia and Uraia means a lot to CRECO because CRECO and Uraia have a long-standing history, right from the National Civic Education Program 1 and the National Civic Education Program 2, and now transitioning into Uraia, CRECO being an umbrella organization of Kenyan national and county-based civil society organizations. We have had to benefit a lot from capacity building from the Uraia Trust and even resources in terms of enabling the work of our members to function at the county level and national level in our country in creation of civic education, constitutional awareness, championing human rights, and enabling Kenyans to understand their rights and responsibilities during electoral years in our country, as well as building the nation. Currently, we are under the auspices of Uraia and support from Uraia. We are focusing on schools to ensure that our children in primary schools understand what we mean by national values and ethos of our country, so that they become better leaders in future and support in nation building and sustainable development in our country.
Thank you very much. So there you have it from our implementing partners in the county. Again, these are the building blocks of the work that we do. Remember, we're emphasizing the work that we do around civic education and engagement. And then all these are the building blocks that help us to realize that goal of building or nurturing an informed, empowered, and values-based citizenry. So as we move along, now we want to take the direction of looking forward in terms of where we're going for the next 5 years. And to do that, our acting executive director, Dr. We're aspiring, Ms. Oduak Amimo, will take us through the highlights of our strategic framework 2021-2025. Ms. Amimo.
So thank you all for being here, that you could make time to be with us at Uraia as we launch our strategic framework for 2021-2025, given the pressures on your time, is something we appreciate. I will go into more detail on the framework and the context that wrought it shortly, but first, I'd also like to extend my gratitude, starting with the former Executive Director, Grace Maingi, who has steered Uraia through 3 strategic plans, and for whose position recruitment is ongoing. I'd like to ask the Uraia staff members present here to stand up so that we can recognize you for your extensive work and dedication since the organization was formed, particularly the tireless work in facilitating quality civic education and engagement across Kenya, reaching the most remote parts of the country, sometimes subjecting yourselves to extreme discomfort. Abu is nodding because he relates to that, as you preach the message of rights and responsibility. Thank you. To the South Consulting team, who rigorously and patiently sifted through the many views of Kenyans and others beyond Kenya, who challenged our thinking at Uraia to develop this strategic framework, we say the biggest thank you ever. None of the work, they actually deserve that applause. None of the work we do at Uraia would be possible without our implementing partners. You've just heard from a few of them. This work would also be impossible without the generous support of our development partners, and you'll hear from a representative in a bit. But friends, we are at a critical point. This launch comes on the eve of Saba Saba Day, the 7th day of the 7th month of the year, when Kenya marks the day, about 30 years ago, when the agitation for citizen agency, the agitation for democracy, met forceful and bloody resistance from the state. You have heard previous speakers talk about our history, acknowledging that much has changed since then. We have a new constitution. We have our country's first female Chief Justice. What is current in the news at the moment is the High Court's ruling on the draft proposed Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill, the Building Bridges Initiative, or BBI. A search of the High Court's judgment returns 18 instances of civic education and 105 of public participation. If there is one issue that both sides of the case are agreed on, it is the central and important place of civic education and public participation in the exercise of sovereign power by the people of Kenya. The contention appears to be whether civic education and public participation were conducted to the standards anticipated by the Constitution. We're looking forward to the outcome of the appeal, but going by the proceedings we heard from both sides in the Court of Appeal, Uraia's mission and vision have been put in the front and center of democratic governance in Kenya. Civic education and public participation are inescapable in the exercise of sovereign power by the people of Kenya. So our work is cut out for us, and this strategic framework is a roadmap to delivering on that mandate. It's also an exciting moment for Uraia as we usher in our new strategic framework, building on the learnings and achievements from our previous work, coming as it does after our 10th anniversary. It also offers us the opportunity for bold changes as an organization within our ecosystem of civic education, and we believe in Kenya. To deliver that mandate, we need to strengthen our capacity so that the center can hold. Recruitment begins this week for additional hands to ensure that we maintain our standard of strong, sustained growth and impactful delivery. This is allied to our drive for innovative and broad-reaching action throughout our partnerships in government, in private sector, in civil society, and in the communities that we work with. Our track record on this speaks for itself. We look forward to your support as we take this direction. We aim to develop a structured resource mobilization strategy for this period. Again, we will count on your continued support. Friends, the process of developing the Uraia Strategic Framework started 1 year ago and coincided with the global COVID-19 pandemic. Through the vagaries of that disruption, we held several sessions, both formal and informal, writing and rewriting several drafts to arrive at a framework that addresses the need for transformation in Kenya. It allows us to continue acting in trust on behalf of Kenyan citizens and with both implementing and development partners. Together, we have an opportunity during this next strategy period to do the very practical work that will ensure we improve the lives of every Kenyan, something I know we all believe in. We want to work in partnership with all parties that want to deliver on the ideals set out in the political pillar of Kenya's Vision 2030, as captured in the Constitution of Kenya 2010. With your backing for the strategic framework, we will pursue 3 main outcome areas, focused on very concrete and specific results for Kenyans. Those outcomes are set out in this video, outlining the details of the strategy, which I now invite you to watch. Thank you. As Kenya's national civic education program, Uraia Trust works to provide quality civic education and enhance civic engagement. That work develops citizens who are committed to protecting the values of democracy and good governance. It's not an easy task. Despite the gains we've made through the 2010 Constitution, such as devolution, judicial reforms, political pluralism, and increased accountability, Kenyans remain frustrated. Across the various sectors we consulted with in developing our new strategic framework, Kenyans cited concerns about rising public debt, unemployment, illiteracy, apathy among the youth, and insecurity. To address these challenges and harness the opportunities around us, Uraia chose to focus on a broad framework of change that allows Kenyans to pause, reflect, and work collectively on and with the essence of who they are as a people. That framework is an empowered, engaged, and values-based citizenry. Uraia believes that if Kenyans have an informed and empowered citizenry who are guided by values and equipped with knowledge and capacity that connects to their lived experiences, then Kenyans will be better able to take personal and collective responsibility and work together to realize our constitutional aspirations. Uraia also believes that by focusing on creating an effective ecosystem for continuous quality civic education and engagement, we can mitigate the economic effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on the delivery of civic education. We want an ecosystem of partners that learns, grows, and fosters a sustainable environment that improves the quality of life for every Kenyan. Times are hard for most Kenyans, whether it's unemployment or public health crises such as COVID and corruption. Every one of us is feeling the pain. By working on increased responsiveness and accountability in Kenya's public spaces, Uraia aims to enhance awareness and strengthen engagement on service delivery and other issues that impact the realities of everyday life in Kenya. Our conversations about how personal and public lives are lived in Kenya revealed a frustration with perverse values in public affairs. So, Uraia wants to develop national consensus on what a culture of Utu would look like in public service. This outcome builds on our previous strategic directions, from rights and responsibilities to values and nationhood. With consensus and a framework for the practice of Utu in place, Uraia will advocate for increased adherence to a culture of Utu. By redefining how Kenyans think, speak, and engage at work, at home, in their communities, places of worship, and public lives, Uraia Trust believes that by 2025, we can build a Kenya that enjoys its rights and freedoms, a Kenya that is transformed so that citizens actively realize their constitutional aspirations. We invite you all to partner with us to nurture an empowered, engaged, and values-based citizenry. To learn more about the Uraia Trust 2021-2025 strategy and how you can contribute, please visit our website.
Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it, the highlights of our strategic framework 2021-2025. Quite ambitious and one that inspires excitement in Uraia, and I hope that it has done the same for you. Now, as we move along, again, there are words that you will continue to hear: an ecosystem for effective and continuous civic education. And part of that ecosystem is made up by partners who are critical to the work that we do. We're not able to do this work without the support of development partners, some of those who have joined us today, and we're really appreciative. And today, to hear the perspectives of some of our development partners, we have Mr. Joseph Kimani from the Royal Danish Embassy. He is the program manager for the governance program. And I would like to invite Mr. Joseph Kimani to give us their remarks on behalf of the development partners. Karibu.
The chairperson of the Uraia Board of Trustees. Trustees you must see here, some of them very old friends like Collins, the staff, and our chief guest today, Dr. Edward Ouko, who served this country with distinction, and the staff of Uraia. So good morning, everybody. First of all, I want to congratulate Uraia on this auspicious occasion of this launch of the strategic framework. It's a very, very exciting document, and the presentations that we've had today confirm that very fact. I also must acknowledge the comprehensive approach that Uraia has taken in developing this document. I have been one of the people that have been consulted severally, and I know that others have also been similarly consulted. So I want to congratulate you for that very comprehensive approach that you've taken. And that approach has not only involved consultations with Kenyans. I know that the South Consulting team has also taken lessons from other comparable jurisdictions. So this document has the benefit of the very best of global best practice. So I want to congratulate you for that approach. At this point, I want to observe the critical role of civil society as a critical cog in the wheel of Kenya's socio-economic and political development. Civil society, in essence, can be looked at as the fifth estate. And civil society not only conveys the aspirations of the people, but very importantly, also offers concrete and workable solutions to the problems that afflict the country. And Uraia's role in this role is fully commendable. And I want to encourage Uraia to continue along the same path. I want to draw your attention now to the strong focus on civic education. And Uraia is known for its civic education. You can even see here, Kenya National Civic Education Program. Abdullahi has mentioned the history. I remember Josphat years back in Mombasa when Uraia is now shifting from a program to a trust. And I recall attending that one when it was being managed by KPMG at that particular time. And so it has walked a very good path. Civic education, the focus on civic education. This is critical because through civic education, you then provide the possibility of creating a populace that is aware of its rights and responsibilities, which in essence leads to better informed civic action. So when we talk about the mantra, from knowledge to action, that can only happen when you have proper civic education. And therefore, we are excited as development partners that Uraia has continued to be at the forefront of propagating civic action and engagement. I want to load the overall goal of Uraia Strategic Framework. The goal is an empowered, engaged, and values-based citizenry. An empowered, so the civic education comes in very strongly. An engaged, the civic action, so deploying the knowledge to action, and a values-based citizenry. Good people, people that are committed, people that will work for Kenya, not in expectation of any reward, but because it is the right thing to do. So Uraia can and should be very proud that they're engaged in this endeavor. I cannot think of more important work than this particular work. So congratulations, because this one will create an honest, patriotic, knowledgeable people that will move this country, that will move Kenya forward. The focus on accountability is another point that I would want to mention and lay some emphasis on. All of us are familiar with the terrible demon of corruption that has continued to drain public resources. And the focus on accountability is therefore quite relevant and timely. And we know that when we're able to reduce corruption, that shall lead to better service delivery, not only at national level, but also at county level. Social accountability in particular is very important. And I've had the distinct joy and privilege of accompanying quite a number of Uraia staff across the country, from Garbatula to Garissa, to Nyeri, to Nakuru, quite a number of places across the country. And we have witnessed the power of social accountability. We have sat with communities as they have made queries on very critical issues such as health, water, issues that matter to them at the local level. So social accountability is key, and we are very excited that this continues to be a strong focus for this new strategic framework. The budget process is another area that is also very key. And we have interacted with budget facilitators across the country. Indeed, I don't think there are people who are more qualified on the budget process than the Uraia budget facilitators. So that's something that I would want to congratulate you all, because the budget process is essential. Understanding the budget process, the citizens getting engaged throughout the budget cycle is essential if the resources that are derived from the taxpayers are to be utilized well. The concept of Utu is another area that I want to talk about. This is indeed commendable and also innovative. But I'm also excited because Uraia has not defined Utu. Uraia is inviting Kenyans to co-create this concept of Utu. It's inviting Kenyans to then speak together and define what it means, what this concept of Utu means. So sharing this, moving forward towards having a shared understanding and ownership of the concept, I am sure will lead to great outcomes. Denmark is very proud to be associated with Uraia. We've had a long-standing partnership. Indeed, we have partnered in the last strategic framework, 2016 to 2020, And based on the great partnership that we had during that time, we had absolutely no hesitation to make a very clear decision that we wanted to continue with our partnership over this period. So we are very proud for 2021 to 2025. We will continue partnering with Uraia, and indeed we've even enhanced what we were able to provide in the last strategic framework. So that is a great vote of confidence in Uraia. And I convey the congratulations of my ambassador and indeed of my fellow staff to Uraia for the excellent work that you've continued to do. And I know this is something that is shared by our fellow development partners. And the work that you do is in full alignment with Denmark's strategic focus on strengthening democratic participation and citizen engagement. So that is something that we share and which we take quite seriously. In conclusion, Denmark and I am confident other development partners wish Uraia, its national and county implementing partners, the very, very, very best as we implement this inspiring and well-focused strategic framework. And you can count on our unequivocal support. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kimani, for those very heartwarming and encouraging remarks. And they inspire us to go forward to carry on this important work. Ms. Uduak highlighted how challenging sometimes it can be, and it's a slog, but when we see the results, we are encouraged. When we see our implementing partners getting to where they are, our budget facilitators, our civic educators, we're inspired and we're encouraged to carry on. So thank you very much. So ladies and gentlemen, it's getting closer to that exciting time. I'd still like to remind you to engage with us on our social media platforms using the hashtag Uraia Newsstrat and Uraia Strat Launch on our social media platforms. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest of honor does not need any introduction. He is well known to all of us. He was the first Auditor General under the Constitution of Kenya 2010, and we are delighted to have Dr. Edward Ouko with us to give us the keynote speech. Karibu sana, Dr. Ouko. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome.
Thank you, Carol. And good morning, everybody. Good morning. Yeah, really delighted. But let me recognize, first of all, the chairperson of Uraia, the acting CEO, Uduak, as well as the trustees who are here, and of course, our supporters, donors, and we welcome Joseph from Danida. I am, and of course, the Uraia who are here and everybody who's here, and those who are outside there listening to us. You know, it's very rare that these days I get invitations, so when Uduak asked me to come, then all of a sudden I realized that, oh, I need to now sharpen up my public speaking and my public appearance and what have you, because it's been a while that I've been in a public space. But that having been said, is, you know, I was quite delighted when I read the strategic plan and the goals and what you're trying to do, that I said, this is an occasion which I'm really honored to be part of. Now, you know, I really then thank you for allowing me to make a few remarks on the launch of your strategic plan, the 2021 to 25. Maybe you allow me to take off this, really. Oh, now I better put it here. Yeah. Yeah, I am really delighted because strategic plans are usually a plan. And what I've seen in many unveilings is a plan, but what really matters is afterwards the implementation. But one thing which I'm encouraged when I saw the journey which Uraia has undertaken, that I'm assured that this is a strong strategic plan. It's been a strategic plan which is building on, and we can see clearly where we are going. And therefore, even as I'm talking, I'm really drawn now to add on to the future, the next 5 years. And as I was thinking of what to say, there was nothing else but just to go and say we want a citizen who is engaged, empowered, and value-based. Now, when I turn my mind to issues of engaged, I think, the engagement of citizens cannot be overemphasized. Our Constitution, of course, Article 1, states that all sovereign powers belong to us, the people. And to realize this, Uraia, we the people cannot be onlookers. We also have to be active and participating. And in a way, we're talking about the BBI, and I know it went through public participation, and I followed that in terms of the processes. But then we've had now the court case and the appeal going on, and I've been very much captured on the discussions of going on, and of course this has been aired. As I looked at, understood more about Uraia, I said, my goodness, there is something which is, is occupying everybody, which is the issue of popular initiative. And I said, even the courts, nobody seems to, people have various definitions, understanding, and it's a bone of contention, I think, on the appeal. And so my mind was saying, my goodness, this is, as we go forward to 21, 25, the next 5 years, I said, if at all, they had only asked Uraia to ask the public, what is their understanding of popular initiative? Do you know, Uraia would have been quoted today as a precedent or as authoritative source to say who is popular, what do Uraia think of mean with popular initiative. So this is an area where I feel that you, us, Uraia, as you look at your next 5-year development plan, there's a lot more outlier issues like these discussions about popular initiative, which we have to gear our minds to understand. And so you can imagine that engagement in these areas and many other areas is one which will be called upon to do. And that means you'll have to be thinking of not business as usual, breaking new ground, new thinking, opening up the minds and being bold in placing the citizenry at the center of everything. So that's the engagement, the way I see it. And I know I don't have much time, but this is something which has also I've considered in my mind, what is this popular initiative? The Constitution, of course, empowers Wanjiku in many ways. She is empowered to challenge the government. She is empowered to demand services, empowered to elect the leaders. Now, to challenge the government is not easy, but and they don't. Nobody likes being challenged. I experienced that. But you must be bold to have the power of the people behind you to challenge. To challenge is not to challenge irresponsibly But make sure you challenge with facts, you challenge with knowledge, you challenge with policies, you challenge them against things they expect, which they should do to us. And also you defend the institutions which challenge. So that's something which I remember that when we were doing the Public Audit Act, the earlier years, and Uraia actually became very strong, challenged, and participated. But that public participation, what Uraia had contributed, somehow got lost somewhere in the processes when it's taken up by other systems. So really, as much as you engage the citizens, ensure that you follow your engagement up to the boardroom, so to speak, up to parliament. Because sometimes we sit here, we will engage and we'll talk about policies and all that. But we must then have a mechanism or a framework whereby we follow and make sure that the sentence which we said must be inserted is inserted. So this is where I think this word of challenging is very important, and it comes. But we must empower people to demand for services. And this I will just say that a lot of resources now. The BBI is fighting to have more resources going to the ground, which is a good thing, and that's a devolution. And in my view, the devolution should never be rolled back. It should continue. And you will agree with me, as people who have been in the empowering the citizenry, that devolution is working, although be it with a lot of hassles and problems. But it is something which we should fight for more and more resources to go down to the grassroots, because that's where we are going to demand services. And that's where I think Uraia, going forward, we must concentrate and have a focus to see that the resources which are going down to the public or to the counties is being used for the impact and our benefits to demand services. Now, we have to continue demanding services. I will talk about that again, but the other one where we talk about the empowerment, as much as we demand services, we are also we are empowered by the Constitution to elect our leaders. Now, to elect our leaders is something which is really, in a way, sometimes we don't know how we can, who do we hold responsible for the failures in leadership, because a lot of things which is happening with us is poor leadership in a lot of levels. And, we elect them and we say our leaders. So if they're poor leaders, why are they poor, and who elects them? It is us. This is a struggle. I know you've done a lot on that, but still the fruits is not bearing, on the ground. This is something which your strategic framework should again go back to the drawing board and say, what is it we need to do to ensure that we elect the leaders who we want to be there? Because if we don't do that, if we don't take our responsibility and our powers and rights, we'll continue to be we'll continue to be having poor governance. So participation of the people is something which I welcome. And more so when we talk about the leaders, there is something which is always been a disappointment to most of us, is the implementation of the Chapter 6, the integrity issues as far as leadership is concerned. This is very important, and I think we are still struggling with it. You know that. We are going to go to another election, but it's still a struggle. We are still struggling. Are we going to get the quality of leadership who we should expect. The quality of leadership who will understand the national values. The Article 10 of the Constitution, which respects what you call public participation. To be a leader, we have to first of all respect public participation before even you go and civic education people on public education. So public participation is very important. Issues of good governance, integrity, transparency, and accountability for the decisions and actions. It is therefore our responsibility to vote the leaders of integrity, and what kind of leader we vote will depend on us. And therefore, I really still feel and expect that the next framework will try and make a move towards electorate, towards educating them. I know we've done a lot, but there is still something to crack, something to do. This one will have to continue because we'll go to another election and we will still elect leaders which will lack integrity in many ways. Yesterday I was listening to, I think the Citizen was talking about the issues of the EACC and the Transparency International. We're talking about leaders, and what they said is basically they're doing a lot, but sometimes we ask them to bring the big fish. You bring the big fish, but then the big fish is the one who sits at the other side to make the laws about how you can. But this is because we have elected those big fish with the who lack what you call integrity and doesn't respect Chapter 6. So Chapter 6 is very important. And therefore, our responsibility, which we must continue and which I'm hearing coming loud and clear on the framework, on strategic framework, is the civic education. And it's what I love that. I love that because the civic education will be the one to enhance all those things, the public participation, the empowerment we are looking at, our responsibilities. I note as the Auditor General, and we talk of resources going down to the ground, and we are encouraging, and we know more and more is going to go to the counties, and that's a good idea. But my experience, the last auditing of the county budgets, the issue of public participation, and I know you've done a lot, was still not feeding into the budget properly. Now, I keep on saying, because we've done a lot on that. I know you've done a lot. I mean, in your last strategic framework, you did a lot of public participation, and I see the implementing partners who are trying to help exactly that public participation with the budget making. Now, I know it is still, you've done a lot, but sometimes I feel maybe we should go again back. What is it that we're missing? It's not enough to, okay, we will encourage the Wanjikus to come together, but you must inject within that Wanjiko people who have some professional input which can lead to a solid public participation. A solid public participation will not only be just saying we want a well, we want a what. It is a public participation which will actually even go with what you call a costed and valued, costed public demand. Like if it is a road, we must ask our best in that public participation in that community. Why is it that our engineers are not there and our accountants are not there and our lawyers are not there? Because this is where are we missing? So this group of people, we need to inject them with. I would love to be seated in a public participation with my grandmother there, another guy, and of the real shade of the people down. But my input will be to help you educate them. So that if they say they want a road, they can actually know roughly this road we want it will cost this much. It's a Maram road. It will cost this much. And let that be the point of control and check which begins for the public to have said usefully participated. Because the participation is meant to be beyond just the meeting of the participation. It is one we should also follow up on the execution eventually of that particular project during the period. And this is only when we can do that, when we know what a Maram road will cost, that we can now hold we can question the procurement of it, we can question the amount being spent on it, we can now start questioning and arresting what the misuse is there and this whole issue of corruption on the ground. So public participation is very important. We have done a lot. Let's continue doing a lot. But I think we need to have equal, when you're going to fight, you must have armies of equal strength. You must look at the armaments you're going with. Let's make sure that we also talk to the localities, the notable professionals in that localities. Why is it they are not appearing in the public participation? I think you come and challenge me next time. I come from Sierra. So, but it is very important. Now, the other thing is on the country context. We have seen people are concerned about the public debt and so forth. And it was one of the slides which says, amongst the things which people are concerned is public debt. Very well. Now, one thing is that's an area which you should go into, but you should go into it this way. Each year, and we've just celebrated one, we celebrate with pomp and fanfare our budget making, isn't it? When the day of the budget, we are all there, we are celebrating, and we are happy when the higher it is, the better it is, isn't it? Now this time we are 3.63 trillion, and that makes us looks good, eh? We look for that, we celebrate that, we actually throw champagne when that is happening. But I think there is a missing link in terms of accountability. The missing link is what then happened to the resources last time, the monies which you borrowed the other year. What happened before you tell us even the gap in the budget of what we have to meet? So my proposal is this. I think you have to take your responsibility to challenge the government, but in this way. I think you have to require the Auditor General, before the year's budget, the budget is now going to be accepted to in July. You work backwards. By March, the Auditor General should actually have a report which will look up line by line execution, together with the budget controller. Line by line, and look at what were the audit issues which were raised in that ministry. And you'll see that a ministry is asking for more money, and yet they never even used well the last budget. And there is a lot of money which perhaps was also returned back to the... Now, this is the beginning of where you start handling the issue of debt. Because our debt will be handled if we can reduce, a lot of it will be handled if we can reduce wastage, if we can reduce, the pilferages and corruption, which somehow is inbuilt in those budgets. And that can only come out if that budget making process and processes involves, prior to accepting the new budget in the plans, these two people must be heard. The Auditor General and the budget control, they must give us a report about last year. Thank you. I think we can go on, but today is not a day to, long speeches, because we have better things to do. And as I conclude, I have attended many unveiling of strategies, and as I say, with pomp and fanfare, only to be disappointed looking back on the achievement. And I'm glad when I see what you have done. You have a track record, and I'm confident that you're going to achieve. I think when I come back in the next 5 years, I'll be a happy person. And in that, I would like really again to congratulate you for the strategic framework. I think it's solid, I think it's doable, and I think it is breaking grounds. As it said, you have to now break ground, and I could see that coming, and therefore I'm confident that it will be achieved. Thank you very much for listening to me and for the invitation to share some few remarks. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think he deserves a better round of applause. What inspiring and challenging words. And he ties it so neatly from where we came from. Remember, Sheikh started off by saying, much has been done, but much still needs doing. And Dr. Oko has reminded us. So we cannot rest on our laurels. There is still a lot of work to be done. We cannot be onlookers. We have to challenge, but we have to challenge responsibly. So again, we cannot underestimate the role that civic education plays if we're going to have meaningful engagement. He has alluded to the whole issue of ecosystem. We work with communities at the grassroots level, but where are the lawyers? Where are the doctors? Where are the entrepreneurs in the big, 24-story buildings? You know yourselves. So we are hoping that in the next 5 years, and we're not just hoping, but this is what we will be working towards, that we will have a bigger ecosystem. So 5 years from now, when we're thanking our ecosystem, we'll be thanking civic educators, budget facilitators, the business community, the lawyers, the doctors, everyone else. So thank you very, very much, Dr. Oko. And with those exciting remarks, it really does bring us to the entire objective of our event today, the launch of our strategic framework. I am really excited. I know your fingers have been very busy, tweeting and posting on Facebook. In fact, I'd like to read some comments from our participants who are joining us virtually. David Babu says, happy that Uraia is involving us, raising awareness for peace building in our country. The needed support is a vote of confidence in the Uraia work, in the work that Uraia does. Simon from Nyeri, a wonderful launch that has broadened our focus, commitment, and will to engage the citizenry on Utu. Thank you. Charles from Laikipia, very inspiring strategic plan, especially the concept of Utu has really touched me. And then Patrick Ocheng, he doesn't say where from. The launch of the strategic plan is so timely because COVID was almost eroding the civic education knowledge from most citizens. So I think we are on the right track and we just have to keep going. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we have arrived at the kilele of our event. And for this, I would like to invite the trustees of Uraia Trust and the guest of honor to join me on stage as we launch our strategic framework. I will also invite the rest of us to prepare ourselves. This is where you engage with your entire body and being as we launch the strategic framework. Trustees, please join me on stage as we launch our strategic framework 2021-2025. And the rest of us, I will invite us shortly. We will stand and give it a big shout out when we arrive at that moment of launching the strategic framework. Thank you very much. Great, so join me, spread out. Yes, please. So we're gonna do a countdown. We're gonna count down. Yes, sure. Okay. We're gonna do a countdown before. We're going to do a countdown. So I think we're being told to spread out. Spread out. Great. Okay, great.
Spread out when I think that's okay.
So the rest of us in the room are going to support our trustees as we launch, as we celebrate the launch of the strategic framework. Okay, so I'm waiting for the tech team to let me know that I can go ahead. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a countdown to the launch of the strategic framework. Are we ready for the countdown? Are we ready for the countdown? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yay! Ready? Wow! Ladies and gentlemen, the launch of the 2021-25 Strategic Framework, marking a milestone in the journey that we have undertaken for the next 5 years to nurture an empowered and informed and values-based citizenry. Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much. And we are looking forward to this journey moving forward. Thank you so very much. You're not traumatized?
No, I'm not, but I love you.
Our chief guest, Dr. Edward Ouko, Mr. Joseph Kimani, all our guests, staff at Uraia, my fellow trustees, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It does appear like some of us are not familiar with that form of salutation. The normal response is good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you very much, Carol. The building is not 24 stories. And thank you for the outstanding work that you have done this morning. I have a very simple task, just to pass a vote of thanks for where we are today as Uraia. And the people I would like to put on top of that list to appreciate most are the citizens of Kenya. Uraia has had a very long history, as you've heard, right from the early 2000s. And the work of Uraia aligns both to the challenges of the nation and the aspirations of the people of Kenya. As Carol was taking a dig at me, I was transformed by two programs. In fact, well, there's a third one, but for today's purposes, I'll talk about two. The first one was a program that we led as well as at KPMG, the Governance, Justice, Law and Order Sector Reform Program, where we had the challenge of procuring what were called security items through open tender, and we had to convince various arms of government to do so. And then in about 2004, 2005, we were contracted by various development partners to help manage the National Civic Education Program Phase 2. So I have been here quite a bit of time, as Bwana Kimani has mentioned, and I have seen the transformation in the citizen of Kenya. And in that period, I have coined an acronym on what we do as Uraia. And I call that acronym SIKED, spelled S-I-K-E-D. And for us to achieve the mission of Uraia, the citizen has to be psyched. They have to be secure in their body and in their mind and in their livelihood. They have to be informed. They have to be knowledgeable. They have to be engaged. And above all, they must truly decide. It must not be a token. They must decide. And we have seen the transformation that we have gone through as a country, and we appreciate the sacrifices that citizens have made. Because for them to show up for civic education, sometimes they are making a decision between going to the farm or going to the market and coming for this event. So we have to thank the citizens for engaging with us. The second group I want to really appreciate, who have been really true custodians of the mission of Uraia, are the Uraia team right from inception, when we were a program, when we transformed into a trust, up to date. That team has earned Uraia a very good name across the country. And part of that name has emerged from our fidelity to the values of Uraia, especially the value of non-partisanship. That if you're going to allow a citizen, or a citizen is going to allow you into their mind, to transform their mind, they have to trust you. And there are far too many people who come in to the agenda of civic education with self-interest. And in our case, we come in only for the good of the citizen. So wherever you are, Boaz Waroko, Abubakar Zain, all the members of the team, Bwana Masiga, Kimani, wherever you are, Grace, Martin, all the team that we have now, Nancy, Carol, Abu, every single one of you, thank you for staying true to the mission of Uraia. Now, there could have been the need, there could have been the mission, but without the resources, we would not have achieved what we have achieved. And really want to appreciate the development partners who believed in Uraia right from inception and trusted us to embark on uncharted territory. And we have had the very encouraging words, the vote of confidence from Bwana Kimani, from Danida. If you look at a copy of the Constitution, and this was a lot of work that we did after the post-election violence and contracted various organizations to deliver on this Constitution, you will see the development partners that have been with us. Danida is right there in the middle. We've got the Canadian International Development Agency. We've got the Embassy of Finland. You've got the Kingdom of the Netherlands, the Norwegian Embassy, UK Aid, formerly DFID and now FCDO, and USAID. So the work that has been done through the support that we have received from development partners, and now we have CARE, we have Plan International, we have Diaconia, we have the United Nations Development Program who have worked with us for many years. The United Nations entity for gender equality and the empowerment of women, that is UN Women, ISEP, that is the Ecumenical Civic Education Program, INUCA. And so we have had very many partners who have worked with us throughout that time. And our hope is that you have planted the seed and that Kenyans, and indeed especially the private sector, will eventually take up the responsibility of securing civic education and public participation throughout the years. So the list is very long. I apologize if I have left out anybody, but we appreciate you very, very deeply. To achieve this work, we have also worked with national partners, including arms of government, and these organizations have understood, embraced the work that Uraia has. In fact, the government actually was coming up with the Kenya National Integrated Civic Education Program, which we are still trying to work with them on, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, constitutional commissions, to make sure that this work is ingrained in the work of every entity, including counties who we have worked with. You have heard from implementing partners, and our work cannot be delivered without the support of implementing partners, without the support of civic education facilitators on the ground, and really appreciate the work that is being done there. There's a lot of work still to be done ahead of us. So there's a long list of people I could go through, and really want to appreciate you also for coming this morning, for making time, for putting yourself at risk, because we are keeping numbers low. I hope we have honored that life that you have entrusted us with. And please go and spread the message of Uraia wherever you are. Dr. Ouko, thank you for those uplifting messages. Uraia happens to recognize the heroes of this country who may not be celebrated by power. So we will invite you again and again, and others. And this is really an encouragement to every citizen, wherever you are. Just serve. Don't wait to be celebrated. The world will follow later. We have service providers who have made this event possible. The online publishing, the sound system, the Sirena, all of this, we thank you very, very much for the support that you have provided us, and may God bless you all. Thank you very, very much.
That marks the end of our official event, but I did promise you that we will share the results of our Menti poll. So tech team, if you're able to reveal the results of our poll, we asked, do you think values should be legislated? And the results are, oh, there we are. So 60% think that values should be legislated, and 40% think they should not be legislated. So everyone is very clear. I think this is an opportunity to start a conversation on the issue of values and legislation. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the results of our poll. And this then marks the official ending of our event today. I want to thank you all very much for joining with us today, and I do wish you a very happy rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Wewe ni Mkenya, pigania nchi yako, pigania haki zako kama Mkenya.